of all, I want to acknowledge the presence of some extraordinary leadership that we have here in the state of New York, starting with our Attorney General, Tish James. Tish, she's on her way.
She's right.
No,
She's coming.
She's
Right
coming.
now.
She's coming.
Right
Perfect time.
Great entrance there, Attorney General. The leader of the New York State Senate, Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Mario Salento, the unflappable leader of the AFL-CIO. And all my partners in state government, our elected senators, assembly members, members of my cabinet, and other unions who are here, not just the AFL-CIO, but also 32BJ, HTC, CSA, PSC, as well as Somos Community Care. Today we gather with the Statue of Liberty looking out here in the harbor. When I look at the statue, I see the strength of a woman. I see the promise of a young country. And I see the hope of millions who found their way to what they thought was the promised land, a promised land that be governed as promised by our founding fathers by a functional federal government. Well, as much as she has stood there for 140 years with that eternal promise of freedom, fairness, and opportunity, we also look at her inscription. Many of us have it memorized. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. That encompasses the America we always believed we were. But today, the torch she holds as a beacon to others, a symbol, could literally go dark. Not because of an act of God or a horrific storm or a flood, hurricane, but literally because Donald Trump and the Republicans in Washington forced a government shutdown, extinguishing all hope that Washington could find a path to avoid inflicting pain on millions of Americans. I want to be very clear. This shutdown is a choice, a deliberate decision by Donald Trump and the Republicans to abandon the very people they were sent to Washington to represent. And they alone are responsible for this. They hold all the levers of power: the presidency, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. So instead of governing, they abdicate their responsibility and abandon any chance at this time of real negotiation. And today, as a result of this, they've unleashed chaos through millions of families across our great country, in every single workplace in our communities. I'm not making this up. Donald Trump admitted this yesterday. He bragged that during a shutdown, his administration could do things that are irreversible: reduce the federal workforce, slash programs, take away benefits. That's not me saying it. That's Donald Trump. That's not leadership. That's cruelty. And it comes on top of 9 long months of turmoil in our country. Just remember 3 months ago when we heard the unbelievable news, when they rammed through that big, ugly bill. What did that do? It slashed food assistance, gutted health care, all so they could hand out tax breaks to their billionaire buddies, literally taking from the poor to give to the rich. And meanwhile, we know this. Our American families are already stretched so thin. Sky-high utility costs, child care costs, rent that never seems to stop climbing. And now, on top of it all, and this is what the fight is about, nearly 25 million Americans are set to have skyrocketing health care premiums that were afforded to them under the Affordable Care Act. Now let me get this right. We know this happened in Washington. We have 7 Republican members of Congress who claim they represent New York. They have enough numbers They have the power. And instead of exercising that power, they literally bow down to Donald Trump. Then listen to cries for help from their constituents. In putting Donald Trump first, they put New Yorkers last. And I know this. Spent some time in Congress. A lot happier now, for the record. Sometimes votes in Congress are hard. I know this. I had to vote 47 times as a new member of Congress to save the Affordable Care Act. And in the end, it was said that that probably cost my seat in Congress, given how conservative my district was, how much they hated the Affordable Care Act at the time. But it was the right thing to do. Republicans in Washington had that same opportunity. Instead, they choose to create chaos instead. And now the consequences of this shutdown are devastating. 2 million New Yorkers on SNAP. 1 in 10 people in our state will now struggle putting food on their tables. 442,000 women and children who depend on WIC could see their benefits cut. And over 100,000 federal workers right here in our state have either been furloughed or at risk of being furloughed and living without a paycheck, including dozens who work keeping our Statue of Liberty open, and some of them are with us here today. Think about that. Public servants dedicated their lives to this country, and now they're being told, no paycheck, no certainty, go figure it out on your own. That's the real human toll of this shutdown. And while Washington fails our families, New York is staying vigilant. We're closely monitoring all these cuts, watching what happens with SNAP, WIC, and making sure we keep New Yorkers informed. And we'll continue doing as we did with the legislature, focusing on affordability. We have the inflation checks, thank God, arriving this month and next. We expanded the child tax credit, free school meals that people are saving their money right now every single day. I hear this on the streets of New York. And expanded tax cuts for working people. So all of us are joined here together, calling out this reckless shutdown and demanding that Republicans just do your jobs. Fund the essential programs and programs that New Yorkers, the services New Yorkers depend on. And so importantly, just restore the premiums that New Yorkers have been able to use to help offset the high cost of health care. That was the promise of our federal government to its people just a few years ago, that access to health care for families and children was so essential. It's part of who we are as New Yorkers, and now they're taking away the ability to know that you can take care of your family when they get sick. Without these subsidies, millions and millions of New Yorkers will see their premiums skyrocket, even up to $3,000 a year. Who has that money sitting there? New Yorkers don't. I've listened to them. We've all listened to them. They don't have that money sitting there. You know, just sometimes life is too damn hard. And now to have this pulled out from under them. With the other cuts coming, let's just talk about what happened yesterday. Who knows what's happening tomorrow? Yep. Cutting $187 million, defunding our police and fire department here in New York City to protect us from possible terrorism attacks. My God, you can't make this up. And it's going to other cities in states that have never even seen or witnessed or experienced the cruelty of terrorism. A $750 million cut to health care this year alone. We're struggling to figure out how to pay for that. Anticipating the $3 billion cut next year, all for health care. So the point of me saying that is that we're not in a position to bail out the federal government. Nope. We're just not. No more bailouts for Republicans in Washington to ease the pain that they've unleashed on New Yorkers. No more cleaning up their mess. No more footing the bill for Donald Trump's recklessness. So tonight, when people look out on the harbor, see that Statue of Liberty, searching for that torchlight, I don't know if it's going to be on or not. But it symbolizes all that is great about America, or so we thought. And it has great risk of being extinguished. And when that happens, know the truth. It was Republicans who did this, who've done this all over America. Let me conclude with this. I'm sad to say this, but America has not been made great again. We are greater when our federal government, our elected leaders actually cared about people. We are greater when our government provided health care and nutrition to families. When we cared about seniors and veterans and farmers. And we kept law-abiding immigrant families together, not ripped apart. That compact that we always had has been abandoned, shredded by Donald Trump and every Republican who's complicit in dismantling our government. Here in New York, we stand with Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who right now, as we speak, are leading the fight in Washington to restore some sense of sanity. Say enough is enough as we fight these fights here on the home front. You know, we're not going to let Donald Trump and these Republicans extinguish the values that our Statue of Liberty symbolizes. And if her flame does go dark, here in New York, we know what we must do. We will pick up that torch. We'll hold it high. Make sure it shines brightly as a symbol of the compassion and the fairness and opportunity that have always been represented by this incredible symbol. This is personal to us. The Statue of Liberty stands in our harbor, and that fact alone defines our destiny to protect her and all she stands for. We have a moral duty to guard her legacy and everything she symbolizes, and in so doing, we'll create our own legacy as defenders, protectors, and fighters. Are you ready for this fight?
We are.
Yes. I'm ready for this fight. I know I am. And don't mess with New Yorkers. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the most fearsome Attorney General in all the land, Attorney General Tish James.
See you. I want to thank, first before I begin, I hope and pray that as a result of the building collapse in the Bronx, that there was not a loss of life and no serious injury to anyone. And so I pray that everyone comes out of that building safely. I want to thank Governor Hochul for bringing us all together this morning. I want to thank members of labor who are here, and I want to thank all of you for being here. Last night, my office had to file an emergency complaint at midnight because we uncovered that FEMA had slashed the budget of the MTA by $33 million. We were awarded a grant that is focused on detection of any risks, security risk. $33 million that was awarded to New York. And they slashed it to zero. And then they took those funds and reallocated them to other states. And the condition of that eligibility is risk. And after 9/11, I can think of no other state that is facing the risk than New York. So the question that you ask is, why did they zero it out? They zeroed it out because they allege that we're a sanctuary city. But at the same time, they reallocated those funds to other sanctuary cities. At the end of the day, we will cooperate with regards to criminal immigration enforcement, but not civil immigration enforcement, and there is a difference. We've witnessed every day individuals who do not represent the worst of the worst. No, they're individuals in our construction industry, our farming industry, individuals who lift up our economy in the state of New York, families that have been separated, children that are crying, all because of this immigration animus that this administration has. And that's why we filed right before the government shutdown, demanding and declaring that that illegal act violates everything that we believe in, violates the Administrative Procedure Act, violates the separation of the states, violates the 10th Amendment, is ultra-virus, and the list goes on and on and on. And so we seek to recover that $30 million for all of the individuals who ride the subway every day to keep them safe. And this shutdown is just another example of more chaos and confusion and pain to New Yorkers. And so for all of those in Congress who purport to represent the interest of New York, where are you? Where are your interests? Why are you not defending the state of New York? Because we have to fight my office whenever the president issues an executive order. In fact, we filed over 40 cases in response to illegal, unlawful, unconstitutional executive orders, including FEMA, that we need now in response to that building in the Bronx collapsing. Yep. Thousands of individuals in this city will be furloughed. Thousands on Long Island. Thousands in the city of New York, in each and every borough, in upstate New York, in central New York as well. And every possible program that you can think of, from Head Start to food pantries to some of our health centers, will all be impacted. Governor, I'm so glad the members of the legislature are here. And I am so glad that we have members of unions, the labor movement here. Because I want all of you to know we're going to have to stand together, arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, with no space between us, defending the interests and the rights of New Yorker. My name is Letitia James, and if you harm New York, you've got to go through the office of the Attorney General, headed by Tish James. Thank you.
Okay.
Glad she's on our side. Glad she's on our side. I also want to acknowledge we've also been joined by DC 37, CWA. Senator John Lewis joined us. Jessica Gonzalez-Rojas is here as well. And now it is my great honor to introduce my partner in government, someone who I have immense respect for, who is aligned with us on all of our values as we fight together as New Yorkers. Our Majority Leader of the U.S. Senate. Maybe you guys say something. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Chuck.
Let's get through the shutdown.
All right. I'm thinking about what Chuck Schumer is doing right now, but we have our very own Majority Leader of the Senate, Andre Stewart-Cousins.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much, Governor Hochul. And you know, after our Attorney General drops the mic, I mean, you know, what are you going to do after that? But I am happy, Governor, that you've brought us together here with the backdrop of Lady Liberty, with all of my colleagues who I've missed since we left in June. I'm sorry. that we have to come back together on this moment, for this occasion, to decry the dysfunction that has taken hold by the Republican-led administration in Washington. I'm also happy to be here with my colleagues in labor because we know what we've done together to build the economy, to build the power of people in this great state and in this great city. And today, we stand, as the shutdown looms, to remind people why we're here. Because we have a dysfunctional government led by a president who basically believes that if he inflicts pain on people, that it will only hurt Democrats. I'm amazed. Oh, let's shut it down because we'll do things that Democrats don't like. Oh, you mean like caring for the poor? You mean like caring for our veterans? You mean like making sure children and seniors have food? You mean making sure that people have health care? And oh, by the way, when they sit at these kitchen tables, understanding that what they are proposing will double their premiums, making it impossible for people all over this country to pay for health care. They believe that this is a Democratic issue. And most sadly, they believe that they only have to serve Republicans. I don't know how we lost sight of what government does. I don't know how we have elected people, and certainly Congress people right here, Republican Congress people who could change everything. I don't know how they could leave a city, a state, as viable as New York and go to D.C. and decide that they do not represent the millions of people here, but they represent Donald Trump. And how do you go and represent someone who clearly has no respect or regard for a government or law or people, who believes that cruelty is the point, that revenge is part of his duty, and who would stand in a memorial service and talk about how much hate he enjoys. This is a problem, and it's a problem that we as people, as the governor says, as the Attorney General says, must stand arm in arm to reject the failed policies of hate, of retribution, of using government to weaponize people against their own best interests while they lie about the problem. That's right. We're here to tell the truth. It's their shutdown. It's their ability to make this work for people, and we will not be bullied. Senator Schumer won't be bullied. Hakeem Jeffries won't be bullied. We will not be bullied into pretending that wrong is right, that hatred is love, and that government is not supposed to serve the people. We are standing strong, and we're sending a message to the people to talk to, yes, right here in New York, our Republican congresspeople. Bring them back home to understand that we sent them there for us, not to serve a delusional want to be king. Thank you.
Got a little fire in the belly there, leader. Fire in the belly. I also want to acknowledge, we've been joined by Councilmember Eric Botcher as well. We've also hopefully acknowledged all of our elected leaders. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the leader of the labor movement here in the state of New York, continuing the legacy started decades and decades ago as the birthplace of the labor movement here in New York, and that is the one and only Mario Silencio. Mario.
Thank you, Governor. Governor, I want to thank you first and foremost, of course, for bringing us together here today, but much more importantly than that, for demonstrating the leadership that we so desperately need across this country and setting an example for every single elected official in this nation. Let's hear it for Governor Hochul. I certainly want to thank every elected official here today, every single one of you, for your friendship to organized labor, for always fighting for the needs and concerns of working people, but most importantly, joining labor in this fight against what we know to be a coordinated campaign of chaos across this country. Now, we know certain things, and the governor pointed it out very clearly. This is clear. This is something that everyone can agree on, right? Republicans boast and brag across this country that they have the levers of power at their disposal. They lead the United States Senate, they lead the United States House of Representatives, and they have a representative in the Oval Office. For any Republican from Washington and in Washington to say that anyone else is responsible for what's happening today in this shutdown is at best disingenuous. At worst, it is an insult to the intelligence of every single American.
Right.
We are smarter than that. And quite honestly, it's an act of cowardice. Now, I know this. There is something to be proud of today. There is one thing to be proud of today. After having conversations with Governor Hochul, Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, Speaker Carl Hastie, today, the maximum benefit for unemployment insurance goes up from $504 a week to $869 a week. It's a 70% increase. And it's a 70% decrease that's not phased in, because, we usually have to phase things in. No, this is all at once. This is labor and business and our elected officials coming together and say, we have to do what's right for working people. And so what happens as a result of that? A, there's the tangible, there's the real impact, that if you are out of work through no fault of your own, you'll be able to now to better meet your needs and make ends meet and pay your rent and pay your bills, all those things, but it's the intangible. And that's what's so important today, just as important as those dollars as this, particularly at this time of chaos and confusion, is, I'll give you my own example. When I was growing up in the Bronx, my father was a member of Local 3 of the IBEW, and 2 or 3 times growing up, he was out of work. And when he was out of work, I remember 2 things. First, there was a little bit more tension in our home. It was a little bit more tense. And second of all, my father was always seemed a little bit more preoccupied. And I didn't understand it then. But looking back on it now and as an adult and with a family of my own, it's because when you're unemployed, the bills keep coming in. You have to pay the rent, you have to pay your utilities, you have to pay your phone bill. If you have a family, you have to feed and clothe your children and put a roof over their heads. What our leaders have done by raising that benefit that goes into effect today, is alleviating that stress, that giving them peace of mind throughout all this chaos that has been caused by every single Republican in Washington to say, here in New York, we're going to take care of you. And we're going to work together to make your lives better. So I thank each and every one of you and the members of the legislature who are here. Thank you, because today is partially, we can celebrate that here in New York, we can accomplish things together and overcome what they do in Washington. The last thing is this. This is, as I said, this is a coordinated campaign of chaos. This isn't haphazard. We had, when we started with 2 years ago, Project 2025. And they have taken a page from that every step of the way, disregarding collective bargaining agreements, firing workers indiscriminately. Then you come to the big ugly bill in July. Already it's July. They cut Medicare and health care, education, cuts to the NLRB, OSHA, EPA. And they cut the Inflation Reduction Act funding for tens of millions of construction jobs across this country because they're not going to go forward with the renewable energy projects. This means that we're going to have more and more people out of work. And that's why they don't want to take ownership. That's why they're acting as cowards, because they know when you cut services, you cut jobs. And in this case, millions of jobs across the country and tens of thousands here in New York. That's why they won't own up to it. So I say this. I say that on behalf of the 2.5 million members in this state, that we will always work together with our friends in elected office, because when we do, and stand together and join together and fight together and raise our voices together, then together we have the power to protect workers first, but also to raise their standard of living and quality of life. We have the power, particularly here in New York, to protect and fight for a better today and a brighter tomorrow, a brighter future, because that statue stands for not only liberty, but the future generations of this country. And I know that here in New York, together, we are all up for that fight. And I know that together, and only together, we will win that fight. Thank you.
That concludes our program. We also would like to acknowledge Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal, Assemblymember Ron Kim, Assemblymember Alex Borez, entrepreneurs Henry Munoz, Ramon Talas Jr., the PSC CUNY President James Davis, and friends from Somos Community Care, DC 37 and 32BJ. Thank you for attending. We look forward to seeing you again. Safe travels.
Bernice? Hermelin Boucher? How did she not get recognized? Let's give, let's make sure she gets her. All right. You know, as I stand here, the bad news just keeps coming. Guess what has happened since we started standing here? They're freezing $18 billion in infrastructure funding, including the Gateway Tunnel and the 2nd Avenue subway. Okay? They're trying to make culture wars be the reason. Why? Culture wars. Over the tens of thousands of jobs that we've created with these infrastructure projects that were literally talked about for decades, that we finally could get moving, create jobs and opportunity, and take care of infrastructure challenges that others were too timid to take on in the past. So that's what a partnership with Washington looks like as we're standing here. We've done our part. We're ready to build. It's underway. And now we realize that they've decided to put their own interpretation of proper culture ahead of our needs, the needs of a nation. So you can't make this up, folks. Just keeps getting worse and worse. So I'll be happy to take a couple on topics, but I have to manage a lot of chaos coming our way.
Governor, so what's the plan, and with the legislative leaders, are you going to look at possibly making more tax cuts, like you did the middle class tax cut? Will you consider raising taxes? And at what point do you think the Democratic leaders should back down? Is it when, federal workers haven't been paid for a couple of months, weeks? What's the plan, especially on the taxes end?
Well, the longest shutdown in history was back, let me see, under Donald Trump. Back in 2018. It went about 31, 32 days. That was painful for our nation, and finally a resolution was had. We need to continue to fight. We don't surrender. We don't surrender. I think that's the point to be taken. That's what Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are doing on behalf of a grateful nation right now. They're taking it right back to the people who caused this and saying that we're not giving in until we know that you've stopped this dismantling of a program that says we in America believe that we should take care of the huddled masses and the poor who are already here as well. And those are people who are going to lose their health care subsidies. That's what this fight comes down to, as well as the other programs that help farmers in rural areas, our veterans who put their lives on the line to serve our country. Head Start programs to give every child a shot in life. So we're not talking about bailing them out right now, if that's what you're asking. People need to see that there's consequences right now to what the Republicans have done, and definitely go to the polls next year, 2026, and start getting this country back on track again by electing a Democratic majority in the Senate and the House.
Right.
I've said it's $93 billion of money we get from the federal government. I've said from day one, we've agreed. We're not able to backfill this. That's what we're talking about. You know, this park may stay closed. Liberty Park may stay closed because people need to know where this came from. We keep bailing everybody out because we're the good guys, right? This is a whole new world, and we have to stand strong together. So we'll see what the consequences are by the time we get to the next legislative session. I know that this legislature will continue to work with me on affordability. We delivered a program last year that puts upwards of $5,000 back in families' pockets. That's a very big deal. They're just starting to feel that now. And we'll have to find other ways because of that crisis, but not this manufactured, made-up crisis by Republicans to inflict maximum pain on Americans. We don't bail them out for that. They're going to have to live with the consequences, and it's going to happen certainly by 26.
Governor, just to follow up on that, are you suggesting that you're not going to find ways to try to minimize the impacts of these cuts and the shutdown so that people can feel the
No,
negative
I'm saying that
impacts?
we already are. I mean, let's look at what happened in July. We are now, right now, squeezing all of our agencies to come up with $750 million that they cut. We're already talking about how we're going to come up with offsetting $3 billion and cut the health care next year. Okay? We'll look at programs, but I just want on this day one for people to understand how this started, who did this to them, and we're going to be certainly looking at programs going forward. But this is day one. Day one should not lead into day two. Get to Washington, do your jobs, solve this crisis, and do the basics of governing, which is provide a budget that takes care of the people. They're counting on Americans being a lot less smart than I think they are. Americans will understand where this came from. They may not be watching the politics every single day, but they know three things. There's a Republican president, there's a Republican head of the House, and a Republican head of the Senate. So that answers the question of who caused this.
Governor, PIX, we were a little late getting here. My apologies. Could you just summarize exactly how you feel about this shutdown, and what where does the blame for this shutdown lie, please?
One word, it sucks. Okay? And this is wrong. This is wrong. And I referenced the moral responsibility we have as New Yorkers, the protectors of this Statue of Liberty and all she stands for, and how we're not going to let this happen. And I'm proud it's two New Yorkers leading the fight in Washington, because they have those same values steeped in their DNA. They know how to fight. They know who they're fighting for, and that's what we're here today, is to show strong support for them. All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay.